I'd like to open with a true story. Shanghai-based Linchenxian is an innovative cosmetic company that adopts traditional Chinese medicine practices. It has more than 300 retail stores. With the outbreak of the pandemic, entertainment, travel, retail, manufacturing were on the brink of survival, and Linchenxian was no exception. The business plummeted by 90% and was forced to close nearly half of its stores. It employed 200 people, and the rent plus salaries were 30 million RMB per month. And at this rate, it would go out of business in 2 months. On the verge of crumbling, Sun Laichun, the founder of the company, wrote a letter to his employees asking for help. He called a video conference with his employees to strategize converting his brand awareness amongst his 7 million digital followers into revenue. The company began digital transformation within days. Shopping advisors from stores were redeployed to be online influencers who leverage WeChat and other online media platforms to engage customers via live streaming. The business started to gain traction. The founder hosted a large-scale online streaming shopping event with more than 100 shopping advisors using Alibaba's cloud technology. He worried about no one joining the event, but over 60,000 people watched his live stream, and they sold more than 400,000 orders of just one product. The sales from one advisor in 2 hours would equate to that of 4 retail stores. As a result, the sales in Wuhan achieved 200% growth compared to that of previous year. Traditional retail environment was suddenly not viable due to the pandemic and left no choice but to onboard to the digital path, and so the company went all in. Linchenxian wouldn't be the first nor the last company to transform its business growth in its darkest moment. Hello, everyone. I'm Divya Dalapathi, and I'm thrilled to join you all today to share insights on leading product development and leading teams in unprecedented times. Needless to say, the world has changed too quickly since last year and continues to stay somewhat unpredictable. Yet, in the harshest conditions, some businesses, large and small, have gained strategic edge. Consumer behavior and trends have shifted during the pandemic, and companies have pivoted fast and began to create value and grow. You will see shortly that both these shifts and the learnings are here to last. This is a bit about me. I lead product for maps and global scale solutions at Uber, which power core experiences for billions of rides and deliveries. Mapping enables routing, navigation, pickup, and drop-off experiences for moving people and things from A to B around the planet. My career in a nutshell is that I graduated from computer science and started off as an engineer, grew into a dev lead, and then transitioned into product at Bing before Uber. I enjoy delivering products using deep insights and technology that help improve people's way of life at scale. When the pandemic hit, millions of businesses across the world had to close doors, and even large businesses faced severe challenges. To survive, many adapted creatively and changed their business model, like you saw in the case of Linchenxian. While many failed, some survived, and some are even thriving as they have figured out a model that yields long-term resiliency. Let's dive into how they evolve their growth strategies in a sustainable way. Recognize the changes. In a global pandemic, everyone is affected, perhaps not in the same way, nor to the same extent, but pretty much everyone's life has changed. So ratifying those changes is the first step to evolving your product. Some key business trends are retail businesses converting from brick and mortar stores to online e-commerce by pivoting sales to digital world. that generated more insights into the customer lifecycle and helped target online advertising better. This was a relatively slow moving dimension pre pandemic, but now online retail sales increased 30% year over year in 2020 and are up nearly 40% in Q1 2021. Retail businesses pivoted to cater to at home shoppers. And consumer behavior changed, and it's been long enough to graduate that behavior into a habit. For example, takeout or delivery versus eating in restaurants, moving to the suburbs. Trapped inside the homes, people are seeking more digital entertainment, music, or even in home workouts. Even the way are traveling has changed. For example, they prefer Airbnb versus hotels. And so many other phenomena are making these trends evident. And then there are issues with the longer supply chains. Remember those days where we ran out of groceries in the grocery stores? And even after the pandemic subsides, there are still hiccups in the supply chain. Have you tried ordering anything related to home? Everything, all appliances are 6 months backlog right now. On top of that, the overseas trade restrictions added fuel to the fire. No one has a crystal ball to predict the unpredictable changing trends and the ups and downs, and the people's behaviors are changing with different geos and different needs. But when it does, the best thing you can do is to act on it. Not just observe what's different, but study the industry trends, study your consumers. Now more than ever, it's important to step into your user's shoes. So dive into the data, look actively for those anomalies, and segment for those actionable insights. And that will lead to opportunity amid adversity. Before the pandemic, innovations like 5G technology, AI, augmented and virtual reality, self driving, IoT, what have you, were all commonly referenced as trending disruptors. However, almost instantaneously, COVID-19 became the most widespread disruption to pretty much all businesses. Many businesses, large and small, have found their recipe for survival. And in the examples I shared, some have even thrived and graduated from short term survival into long term resilience and growth. Small businesses adapted to stay personable to consumers. Chefs don't really have much of an option to go on to e-commerce. Their work is best appreciated when served on your table in a restaurant. So a well-known chef from Nashville got creative and using Instagram began giving virtual cooking lessons on his signature dishes. Later on, he held classes on Facebook Live and even offered takeouts for some of his menu. With the rising demand of single-family homes, real estate agents turned towards virtual tours, and companies like Zillow enabled 3D home tours and many other resources to agents, brokers, and customers to adapt to the rapidly changing pandemic guidelines. Even large businesses innovated a variety of business models that would lead to permanent features that go beyond the pandemic. With gyms closed and team sports inhibited, people realized that working out at home is a great way to continue to stay fit. After closing their showrooms, Peloton realized this opportunity and decoupled its equipment and virtual workout classes. They offered new users 3 months of free access. People embraced the convenience of streaming Peloton classes right in their own living room. Schools adopted virtual teaching experience with Google Classrooms, and Google Classroom doubled its active users since March 2020 with over 100 million users worldwide to date. And Google Classroom's video conference application, Google Meet, is now used 25 times more than it was in last January. And Uber redefined its meaning of safety with features like mask mandates, contactless deliveries, and much more. The visual that you see on the right here is when we enhanced the food order pickup option versus delivery to reduce anxiety and increase the safety perception when there was a lockdown. I'm proud to have been a part of these transformations, and I still remember our teams poured in nights and weekends to bring our renewed definition of safety into our app. So, even from local mom and pop shops to large firms, companies creatively navigated the ominous crisis by A, pivoting, meaning with understanding how behaviors change and adapting your product to new reality, and growing by reconfiguring the business model to better realize emerging opportunities. They build products after recognizing the lasting impact of the change in the people's way of life and their needs. This is the kind of growth that creates sustainable path to profitability. So let's recap how this section, right? So evolving your product through a four-step methodology includes recognizing change, identifying opportunities, adapting, and growing. Recognizing the shifts in trends and identifying emerging opportunities need not just be all about a new business model. Think about the nuances in the like user anxiety and the changes that are needed. Understand the needs have changed. Notice how your businesses like deliveries and Airbnb are thriving, but also how they incorporated user sentiment. Will my Airbnb be sanitized and be clean when I get there? How safe will I be when I'm receiving my order? So evolve your product with contactless deliveries, COVID protocols and operating models, and even ensuring drivers and riders wearing masks are great examples of addressing user anxiety. And finally, communicate to your end users. Businesses that survived the pandemic and are thriving did so by taking advantage of digital marketing to stay connected with their consumers via online communications. It's extremely important to let your consumers know how your products are changing to better meet their changing needs. Sit back and think about all the improvements that you have made in the last 6 months and are coming next 3 months. Do your users know about them? Do they understand the motive, right? And to reassure your consumers, go the extra mile to personalize the communication and show that you understand their new model, their new normal, to gain their trust in your brand. And in order to evolve your product using this approach, you also need to pivot your executing team's culture and its mode of operation. Leading product development under adverse conditions requires truly conscious leadership. Conscious leaders recognize the need for internal shifts and know how to converge empathy and business needs to ensure teams execute effectively. Even before the pandemic, telecommuting was growing fast from 9% in the 1990s to nearly 40% in 2015. And now you can imagine that must have been gone much, much higher. Product managers and leadership face unique challenges in remote working environment. It requires empowerment both at the individual level and team level, right? So it's essential to build a deeper connection in these times that is supporting individuals, but also create an environment where the team leans in to support each other. Acknowledge that expectations need to be reset and be explicit. Assumptions can be made more easily when remote because there's barely any body language. No individual constraints, like people may have constraints about caregiving for dependents or those who may not have a private office space to work at home. Flexibility now means work-life integration versus work-life balance, and keeping individuals motivated for effectiveness versus efficiency entails that you provide opportunities with depth, but also breadth where individuals can feel more humanly connected and then connect more often with your team. Take a hard look at your team's execution and its way of operating. Larger movements with around 30 plus people in the organizations can get into a logistical nightmare. And two small teams might make people feel less motivated and boxed in as in silos. So Tetris your org's goals to the right size of opportunity to optimally set up initiatives that cut across nimble cross-functional teams with clear goals. You might need to modify the way you set your OKRs and pay heed to those assumptions and success metrics in your product requirements to make what was implicit explicit. As a leader, it's extremely critical that you connect the dots between the teams and the features they are building. You'll be amazed at how much information flow informal hallway conversations create. So make room for those virtual coffees to recreate that information flow. On the upside, a remote work environment is a great equalizer. People feel less left out of those hallway conversations. Less commute time means more family time, and you can and need to apply new strategies to hiring, sourcing, interviewing for specific skills. Perhaps look for even stronger communication skills that can come in handy with remote environment working. And invest creatively in helping new members on board and feel welcome. So, all right. So to sum up, what it takes to lead product development and for teams to thrive during these unprecedented times. These are some key takeaways for you today. Analyze the shift in your consumer behavior. Identify opportunities to pivot your product strategy and creatively bring resilience to your business model. And most importantly, build a culture in your team that converts adverse conditions into opportunities. This flexibility and willingness to adapt will allow a more sustainable rhythm to operate optimally and come out stronger. All of these recommendations work well even during normal times, but they can prove particularly effective in the new normal that we are already in. When the pandemic is behind us, life will probably never go back to the normal that we knew. This was a forcing function to satisfy more customer needs by thinking outside the box, adapting products to a greater degree of convenience, and taught us how to be even more efficient. So why would you go back to the old normal? I'd like to thank Product School and their incredible team for giving me this opportunity. It's been a pleasure sharing my thoughts with all of you today, and I hope you create great products that make the world come out of the pandemic even stronger. Feel free to drop any comments or questions below or connect with me on LinkedIn. Goodbye.